abductor could not be charged with sexual assault due to the statute of limitations running out. Also, St. Cloud has been a haven for human trafficking, especially with underage girls. Would you, my question to you would be, would you support helping to make our community safer by, 1, extending or getting rid of the statute of limitations for child molesters, and 2, increasing the penalty for traffickers and child molesters?
Well, thank you for that sobering but important question, Sean. Just real quick, for those who don't know, I'm Dan Voldemont. I'm a candidate running for state representative right here in District 14B. I live just around the corner with my wife, Nicole, and our 2 daughters. We have Lily, who's going to be a 5th grader at Chilahi, and Polly, who is 2. And as a dad, the whole Jacob Wetterling scenario, as it is for all of us parents, is an absolute nightmare. I mean, the thought of adults who prey on children just makes me sick. So absolutely, I support changes to the statute of limitations and increasing penalties for sex trafficking, because St. Cloud needs to be a place where everyone can grow up and have a safe, healthy, and prosperous life.
Hey everybody, my name's Eric Putnam, and I'm a candidate for District 14A, which is the other side of St. Cloud, the south side of St. Cloud, Wade Park, and St. Augusta. I intend to run, I haven't announced publicly, but it's, well, beyond likely. I'm going to be running for that office again in 2018. Now this question obviously is profound and heartbreaking in a number of ways. The simple answer is yes and yes, obviously. But I think that there's a lot more that we can do as legislators in addition to increasing the penalty. We can do things like stop distracting ourselves from ludicrous bathroom bills where we talk about the dangers that they present to people. When we know that 90% of child predation occurs within the context of a family. The other thing we can do is we can legitimately invest in education. Minnesota has one of the lowest rates of high school and middle school counselors. Where these problems get found are in our schools more often than not. If we continue to fund them, underfund them, deny the things that our schools actually need, as our current legislators have done, regardless of what they tell you, the problem is going to increase and sometimes not get caught. So yes and yes.
Good afternoon, happy Labor Day. Thank you for coming today. My name is Jim Knobloch. I'm the current state representative for District 14B, which is where you are now. It basically includes the southeast part of St. Cloud, northeast part of St. Cloud, most of the north side between the river and Highway 15, a little bit of the south side, North University Drive, and Haven and Minden Townships. In a way, I'm not sure if I should answer this question from the standpoint of I'm not officially a declared candidate, and frankly, I think that elections are way too long. And I normally wouldn't announce and don't plan on announcing until next year sometime when we actually get into the legislative election cycle. Like I say, I just think elections are way too long. But I'm happy to come here. I am a Republican. I'm about the only Republican that I think ever comes to the Labor Day events. But I've also been known as an independent Republican. The St. Paul Pioneer Press rated me as having the most independent voting record of any Republican in the Minnesota House the last couple of years. So to the question, this is a very important question. Yes, I would be supportive of increasing the statute of limitations. But beyond that, I have been working on this issue. I've introduced legislation to fight child trafficking, to increase more funding for grants to fight child sex trafficking. I've worked with Police Chief Dave Bedford in Wade Park. I've worked with our County Attorney Janelle Kendall. We did increase funding to fight trafficking this last year, and have done that actually I think just about every one of the 3 years I've been there since I've been back. So this is a very important issue, and I'm very supportive of doing whatever we can to deal with this issue.
Alright, thank you. So my name is Mika. I am a recent graduate from St. Cloud State University. I currently work as a advocate at Anna Marie's Alliance, as many of you may know about that organization. But my question here today is, for years there's been a push for small government and keeping the people in control of their communities. However, this last legislative session, the GOP supported a measure that would have allowed big government to take away power from local communities to decide what is good for their area. Preemption was a bill written by Alec and passed to the legislature by the Chamber of Commerce. Do you think people should have a voice and the power to decide what is right for their own communities, or are you supportive of big corporations and wealthy elite organizations making decisions for us?
Well, one of the biggest reasons I'm running for state representative is because we need a representative who puts people in charge, not big corporations. And this preemption bill is a good example of that. The preemption bill that Representative Knobloch voted for would have taken away sick and safe time for 150,000 people in Minnesota. That's out of touch. So absolutely, we've got to make sure that our local people, local governments have power, not corporations and wealthy interests.
Dan got a woo. You may or may not know this, but last time around, I was a bit of a reluctant politician. I never had any intention of becoming one. But like you, and I think a lot of people who voted in interesting ways in 2016, there are a lot of things that happen that you hear and you think, that sucks. I don't want that to be the law where I live. This is one of those cases. I didn't particularly enjoy running for office last time around. I didn't. It's a very difficult thing to do. But when I see some of the laws that have been passed and argued for, I can't sit by and let those maintain. And this is one of those issues. This is one of those things you read the newspaper and it makes no sense on its face. So yes, absolutely, I reject the preemption bill.
Well, I have a different view on this, and let me tell you why. I think that it makes more sense to have a statewide standard than a bunch of little local standards. For example, I don't know if anyone of you here worked for any trucking companies in the St. Cloud area, but we heard testimony that if you worked for a trucking company and you did deliveries, if you went down to Minneapolis, you had to keep track of the number of hours you were in Minneapolis, and then you had to comply with those labor standards that were in Minneapolis. If later in your day you went to St. Paul, who had different labor standards, you had to keep track of the number of hours you were in St. Paul, and then have different labor standards that you complied with in St. Paul. If you came back through Anoka, who had still different labor standards, whatever they might be, you had to comply with and keep track of your time in Anoka for those different labor standards. You know, we have 800 some cities in the state of Minnesota. We have 87 counties in the state of Minnesota. If they're all going to have different labor standards, it's going to be very, very difficult to do business in the state of Minnesota. Because of that, I felt it made sense to just have one statewide labor standard, and that's why I voted the way I did.
Isn't that what they call the logbook that all settlers keep? Yeah, so what's he talking about?
Well,
Yes.
personally, I think that you could have one statewide labor standard by passing earned sick and safe time and paid sick for all throughout the state. Next question. Last legislative session, the House and Senate passed a bill that gave $640 million of our tax money to wealthy corporations, including Big Tobacco, while cutting health and human services by $440 million. However, those tax breaks, including Big Tobacco, which, by the way, does not create one job in Minnesota. I'm sorry. How are those tax breaks, including the one, including Big Tobacco, which doesn't create one job in Minnesota, going to benefit the average working person, people with disabilities, and the elderly in this state? And would you support giving working people a tax cut instead of millionaires and billionaires?
Well, Jane, huge tax breaks for big tobacco companies and gutting HHS. Of course, that's not creating any jobs and doesn't do us any good. We all know here there are so many areas that our state needs to invest in. Workers' rights, schools, healthcare, infrastructure, the list goes on and on. So huge tax breaks to wealthy corporations, big tobacco companies is truly out of touch, and absolutely we need to make middle-class family tax cuts our top priority.
The story that you're going to hear is that lowering those taxes increases the economy. Any economist who's a legitimate economist, who knows how to spell economist, knows that that's not true. Tax policy in and of itself does not create jobs. That's just not true. But that's the story that we're going to be told about this. What I think is more important isn't just the amount of taxes, but who is being taxed. For example, it's something I don't know the actual number, but tens of millions of dollars in tax relief are going to 1,000 people. Our current incumbent in 14A, Tamara Tice, tried to raise your sales taxes by 0.5% in every bar, restaurant, and hotel you go to. Now, raising taxes on all of us like that, while lowering taxes just for Jim Knobloch and 999 other people, is not what I'm about.
Well, I guess I've seen a little bit of a pattern here. But now, folks, let's talk about the tax bill that we passed. You know something? There was a lot of stuff in that tax bill for middle-class Minnesotans. There was a student loan credit in that $640 million tax credit that'll give 65,000 students in Minnesota an average of a $414 reduction in their student loan. There was an increased child care tax credit in that tax bill that passed. They'll give a tax credit of $4 million, $50,000, $1,200 more in tax credits than they're getting right now. There were a lot of good middle-class things in that tax bill that we passed. And as far as this tobacco tax deal that they're talking about that supposedly went to big corporations, folks, what we did is we froze the tobacco tax on cigarettes where it is today. Right now, I believe it's at $3.04 a pack. Actually, a number of years ago, I voted for a big cigarette tax increase back when Plenty was in office. Now, he called it a health impact fee. I will tell you, it really was a tax increase. It wasn't a health impact fee. But I did believe that tobacco taxes should go higher. But I don't also believe that we should have tax increases on automatic pilot. And that's what the tax law had us doing right now. It said basically every year the tobacco tax increase on cigarettes automatically went up higher. I just don't think that we need to have them on automatic pilot. And I think at $3.04 a pack, which was a lot higher than it once was, it is plenty high, and with a budget surplus, it didn't need to still be going higher. So I did vote to freeze and keep the tobacco tax on cigarettes where it is today. There were a lot of other good things in the tax bill, but I've already been admonished for talking too long, so I'll stop here. If you want to catch me later, you can.
My name is Helo Joa. I'm a National Senior Representative in St. Cloud. This is I'm working for the Dominican Republic. St. Cloud has been my home for the last 20 years. And my question to every one of you is, first I read the statement. Language is important. It's an important part of the political campaign. And the language we use in flyer is an example of how voting is used to create fear in immigrants and attack working people's right to organize and misinform or misinformation. Now, here's the question to every one of you, because as we all know, St. Cloud is growing. A lot of us, immigrants, have made St. Cloud a community, and we're concerned about this. Do you support this kind of language, or will you promise to run a clean campaign throughout this process?
You know, I think we're all really sick and tired of all the